ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशी श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। इस्कॉन विविधि फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। Is the most merciful appearance de Srila Mahamotsav ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Vyasa Puja ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Ritai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining the day after Janmashtami, where mostly devotees had maybe 2-3 hours of sleep here in the US. Thank you for joining. So over the last few days or a week or so, ISKCON Nepal has taken an initiative this month, inviting devotees to speak on any verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that they like, partly in preparation of Bhadra Purnima, which is coming up at the end of this month, Bhadra Purnima. So different devotees are speaking on different verses. So today I thought I will speak on a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which in a way talks about Srila Prabhupada. Many devotees feel that this verse speaks about Srila Prabhupada. Of course, many verses we can see the person Bhagavat through the book Bhagavata, like Sadhu Sangashtakam, Titiksham, Karunika, Ityad, etc. So many verses are there in Bhagavatam which glorify the Vaishnava, the pure devotees of the Lord. So that's just the background. So firstly, Mangala Charana. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasvai Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapata Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Apam karoti vachalam bhangum langhayate kirim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about Srila Prabhupada. Was the topic Srila Prabhupada is as deep and as wide as the ocean. As it is happening today, so many devotees all over the world in so many of these ISKCON temples and at their homes, people must be glorifying Srila Prabhupada, devotees, and it will still not be enough or sufficient. So the glories of Srila Prabhupada can be spoken forever. But in the limited time we have, we'll try to share something for Srila Prabhupada. So firstly, very, very briefly about his life. And of course, there are many, many Srila Prabhupada's biographies, the most prominent one being Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. So I encourage devotees to read it and purchase it if you don't have one. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and all the details of Prabhupada's life, beginning from his childhood till his passing away, is there. But today, briefly, just maybe in 5 minutes, just briefly about Srila Prabhupada's life. Srila Prabhupada was born as Abhay Charan De in 1896 in Calcutta, in a very wealthy Vaishnava merchant family. His father's name was Gaur Mohan De. And so he was born in a Vaishnava family. And right from the childhood, his father trained him in the Vaishnava way of life. In fact, the De family, Gaur Mohan De family, they were responsible, or they were the caretakers or the sponsors or servitors of a nearby temple of Radha Govinda. And Srila Prabhupada, every day, when in his childhood days, one of his servants would take him to the Radha Govinda temple. And his father also would worship Radha Govinda at home. So like this, he grew up in a very devotional atmosphere. And then, of course, in 1896, it was the British Raj, skipping many, many details. In 1922, so when Prabhupada was about 26 years old, in 1922, Srila Prabhupada, he met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in Calcutta, in a Gaudiya Math. And in that first meeting, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he encouraged him. He said, "You seem to be a person that can speak, English language. You seem to be educated." There were many, many people there in that audience, but he almost like he glanced at Prabhupada, he looked at Srila Prabhupada, and it was as if a personal instruction to him. He instructed him to take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the western parts of the world, English-speaking parts of the world. After some initial resistance, Srila Prabhupada, he accepted in his heart the words of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he accepted him in his heart as a spiritual master. And those words sort of became his life's mission. So that was 1922. Srila Prabhupada was a householder, wife and children. And he was thinking, how can I do this almost mission impossible and fulfill the instructions of my spiritual master, take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the West, English parts of the world, English speaking parts of the world. Of course, as he was a Grihastha, he kept doing whatever little he could do at that time, preparing himself for this ultimate life's mission. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta engaged him in writing works immediately, knowing that he was kind of a scholarly literary devotee. He heard from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur very carefully, so he understood the teachings of Mahaprabhu. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur engaged him in writing articles for his magazine at the time, Sajjana Toshani, etc. And he requested his disciples that whatever Srila Prabhupada writes, it should be published. So like that, so he began to write articles, and so on and so forth, small articles. So 1922, he met Bhaktisiddhanta, and then 1933, he accepted Harinam Diksha from Srila Prabhupada, from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Vrindavan. So 1922, he met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and because he was a Grihastha, he didn't have any opportunities of associating with Bhaktisiddhanta. He met him a few times, but he would, of course, support his Guru Maharaj's mission. He would support his godbrothers, sannyasis, who were trying to assist Bhaktisiddhanta at that time. And he felt very humble as a Grihastha that he could not really do much for his spiritual master. So he revered his godbrothers. Anyway, so 1922 he met, 1933 he received Harinam Diksha in Vrindavan. And then in 1936, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he passed away. And again, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur reminded Srila Prabhupada about his instruction that he had given him in the first meeting. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came in Prabhupada's dream, encouraging him to spread the mission. Anyway, that is 1933. And then so every 11 years almost, there seems to be a significant event in Srila Prabhupada's life. It's easy to remember. 1922, meeting Bhaktisiddhanta. 1933, receiving initiation. 1944, starting the Back to Order magazine again. Anyway, many things have happened, of course, in these 11 years, but you can read Prabhupada's Lilamrita, Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, to get all the details and the turns, the different turns in his life. So 1944 started the Back to Order magazine, which his spiritual master had encouraged. 1955, he took Vanaprastha. So at the age of 59, he retired from family life. His children had grown up. His family was settled or unsettled, but the mission of his Guru Maharaj called him. So in 1955, he took Vanaprastha and moved to Vrindavan. And then in 1959, he took sannyas in Vrindavan, and he began to prepare. He began to prepare in Vrindavan for this ultimate mission of coming to the West, going to the West. He didn't know how it would happen, but he was feverishly praying to the acharyas and preparing himself. He began to write. He said he could not go alone. Taking the message of Lord Chaitanya to the West meant Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is based on Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the basis of our movement. So he began to translate Srimad Bhagavatam. Before that, some people encouraged him. This Back to Order magazine is nice, but it's a small paperback. The people will just read it and why don't you write books and publish them? The printer told him, okay, they will like get the money. Anyway, Prabhupada published the Bhagavad Gita. And then he began to work on his magnum opus, his main contribution, Bhagavatam. So he wrote the first canto he stayed in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, the same place where our Goswamis used to stay. Rupa Goswami's across Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi. Amazing place, Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. And all the sadhus in Vrindavan, they noticed that there is something different about this gentleman. Prabhupada would incessantly chant, and then whenever he would not chant, he would work on his Bhagavatam, preparing the first canto. So that's 1955, Vanaprastha, 59, Sannyas. And then, these dreams and the Acharyas appearing to him, let's go, we'll help you. And he was thinking, how will I go to the West? No money. Anyway, so and then eventually he got a free passage on a cargo ship, Jaladuta. 1965, he left from Calcutta. And then he arrived September 17th, 1965, Boston. And then from there, he came to a small town called Butler, Pennsylvania. The persons that had sponsored his visitor visa. Many old parents nowadays come on visitor visa, but Prabhupada came as an old person, not to visit his family or take care of the grandchildren, etc. But actually, at the ripe old age of 69, to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya. Of course, many things happened on that cargo ship. He suffered a couple of heart attacks. But Krishna assured him that his efforts will not go in vain. And Prabhupada came. But when he came to Boston Harbor, he didn't know whether to turn left or right. There was nobody there to receive him. But eventually he came to Butler, Pennsylvania, and then he felt that, well, I didn't come here all the way to America to be in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's a small town. If I need to start this mission that my Guru Maharaj has asked me, I should go to New York. And then he went to New York. And then he struggled quite a bit there. Then eventually 1966, again 1966, he formally established ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, 26 Second Avenue, New York. And then just in the whirlwind 11 years, 66 through 77, he established a worldwide movement, established 108 temples, which fulfilled the prophecy when he was born. An astrologer had predicted this gentleman will cross the 7 seas and establish 108 temples. Anyways, that's just a very brief summary. Many things happened in these 11 years. Devotees will speak about that all day today, I think. Anyway, long story short, we would not be here today on this Zoom call if it were not for Srila Prabhupada. So we owe everything to Srila Prabhupada, whatever we have. And it's appropriate that we glorify him, we keep him at the forefront and the center of our International Society of Krishna Consciousness as the founder Acharya, to the degree that we keep him and his instructions in the center. The golden age, we will be able to participate in this golden age of Kali Yuga, 10,000 years after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to spread the Sankirtana mission. So, anyway, as I said, Prabhupada's topic is as deep and wide as the ocean. Where do we begin and where do we end? I had a plan, but already I can see, even spontaneously, I've spoken for about 10 minutes here, 12 minutes about his life, and much more can be said. But now coming to the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, a very beautiful verse, 10th canto, 31st chapter, Gopi Gita verse. This a verse that many of you know very well, a very famous verse. 1 second, I'll pull it up. Then 31 9. 10:31 9. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tirayet. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati neshtaki. Very famous verse from the Gopi Gita. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam Kalmashapavam Shravarnamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Bhurida Janaha Tava Katamritam Jivanam Kavibhiriditam Kalmashapavam Shravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvigrinanti Urida Janaha. So I'll read the word-to-word translation and the translation and purport. Tava, your, that is Krishna's, Kathamritam, our dear Mataji in Nepal, Pratibhahu Prabhu's wife, Kathamrita, Devi Dasi, Kathamritam, the nectar of words, Tapta Jivanam, life for those aggrieved in the material world, Kavibhi, by great thinkers, poets, philosophers, Iditham, described, Kalmasha Apaham, that which drives away sinful reactions, Shravana Mangalam, giving spiritual benefit when heard, Srimat, filled with spiritual power, Srimat is divine grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srimat, filled with spiritual power, Atatam, broadcast all over the world, Ovi, in the material world, Grinanti, chant and spread, Shinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti Sadhava, Grinanti, chant and spread. Yea, those who, Durida, most munificent, Janaha, persons. I'll read the translation and purport. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. but who broadcasted them all over the world. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly, those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Purida. So I think you know why I chose this verse. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. King Prataparudra recited this verse to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra festival. While the Lord was resting in a garden, King Prataparudra humbly entered and began massaging his legs and lotus feet. Then the king recited the 31st chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which this verse is from, the songs of the gopis, Gopi Gita. The Chaitanya Charitamrita relates that when Lord Chaitanya heard this verse beginning Tava Kathamritam, he immediately arose in ecstatic love and embraced King Prataparudra. The incident is described in detail in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela. And in his edition, Srila Prabhupada has given extensive commentary on it. So anyway, this is an amazing, wonderful verse, Tava Kathamritam. And just on this verse, we could have a Bhagavatam class for the entire month. Yeah, just that's, each and every word of this verse can be elaborated, can be spoken on a single day. And this verse, as Prabhupada is writing here, the context is Gopi Gita. Krishna and the gopis were engaged in a rasa dance in the Sharad season, just now, like in the season. And somehow Krishna, to increase their love for him, he disappears from the rasa dance. And when he disappears from the rasa dance, all the gopis are burning in separation. And as they are burning in separation, they begin to remember the pastimes of Krishna. And they are pacifying each other by narrating and recounting the pastimes of Krishna. So this is Gopi Gita. This section is that Gopi's song of separation. And this verse is from there. That's the context, firstly. Then, I'll just briefly describe what is here in the purport. So every year, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will take part in the Jagannath Rath Yatra pastime in Jagannath Puri. So Lord Jagannath, he is Krishna in separation of Srimati Radharani. Yeah, Lord Jagannath is Krishna in separation of Srimati Radharani. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can say also that he's Srimati Radharani in separation of Krishna. So it's a perfect place for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to recite Jagannath Puri, Pralamba Kshetra. And every year, this Rath Yatra pastime would happen. In Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath, he resides in this most opulent temple, Jagannath temple, and he's worshipped like an opulent, king. And Jagannath Puri also represents Dwaraka, where Krishna lived with his 16,808 wives in opulence. But as you know, Krishna performed many pastimes in Vrindavan, and he left the residence of Vrindavan, burning in separation. So Jagannath Puri, this Jagannath temple represents Dwaraka, and the small Gundicha temple in Jagannath Puri represents Vrindavan. And Lord Jagannath is being taken from Dwaraka to Vrindavan by Srimati Radharani and his followers, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. Yeah. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees Jagannath in that regal form, like Srimati Radharani, when she saw Krishna as a king, she said, "Who is this king? It is the same moonlit night. You are the same person. I'm the same person, but I'm not feeling ecstasy. Give up this crown and this regal attire and just assume your cowherd boy form. Let's go to Vrindavan." So the gopis, they take Krishna once from Kurukshetra, attempting to take to Vrindavan. That's the original Jagannath Rath Yatra pastime. So similarly here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Radharani, wants to take Jagannath to Gundicha temple. And of course, during this festival, devotees are dancing in ecstasy. And at one point in time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees are tired and they want to rest. So there is a beautiful garden there called Jagannath Vallabha Garden in Jagannath Puri. So Mahaprabhu, he goes there to rest. And meanwhile, there is a king, this king called Maharaj Prataparudra. He is desperately trying to get the favor and mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has this mood that, I don't want to meet, kings. They are materialistic people. Vaishnava should not intimately associate with materialistic people. But of course, this king was not an ordinary king. He was a great Vaishnava. And many devotees were trying to get him audience. And eventually his guru, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he gave him the means, everything. He told him, on this Rath Yatra day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many things happened with respect to Maharaj Pratap Rudra's deliverance. We don't have time to get into all that. But he told Maharaj Pratap Rudra in detail. He spelled it out what to do. He said, firstly, give up your kingly attire, dress in a simple Vaishnava attire, and then go to Jagannath Vallabh Gardens. Mahaprabhu will come. He'll come there to rest. You be ready. And he was instructed, encouraged to recite this Gopi Gita by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And and Maharaj Pratap Rudra was reciting his Gopi Gita with songs of separation. As Mahaprabhu was lying down, he was pressing his feet. And Mahaprabhu was looking at him like, wow, who is this person? And he's offering these prayers. And then finally he comes to this verse, Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam. Then Mahaprabhu, he gets up and then he embraces this king in ecstasy. And he calls him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Namo Mahavadanyaya. He is the most magnificent, Burida. But he calls this king, Burida, Burida. Recite this verse again and again, again and again. So that's the context of this verse. And then how does Srila Prabhupada fit in? Well, Srila Prabhupada fits in all over this verse. Every word resonates with what Srila Prabhupada has done. So, Tava Kathamritam. So now coming to Srila Prabhupada. So this verse is describing about the person, those persons that broadcast the messages of Krishna all over the world. Pouring rain and extinguishing the forest fire of material existence, like we hear here, Samsara Dava, Nalulida Loka. Spiritual master or the Vaishnavas, they pour rain on this blazing fire of material existence. That rain is this Krishna Kathamritam, Tava Kathamritam, which enters through the ear holes. Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam. Tapta means, and we all know, Tapta means literally burning. So the conditioned souls who are burning in this material world, in this forest fire. Okay, what is the way out for them? The way out for them is Krishna Kathamrita. But Krishna Kathamrita, how does one access Krishna Kathamrita? Krishna Kathamrita is accessed from the lips of a pure devotee, from the Vaishnavas. So Srimad Bhagavatam was there. I guess Maharaj was glorifying. It was spoken 5,000 years ago by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, but it was in Sanskrit. And even during Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, we understand how Srinivas Acharya, for example, I mean, he had to go through so many hardships to actually get a copy of Bhagavatam, and he learned it from Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit would read Bhagavatam, but as he would read Bhagavatam, tears would flow from his eyes. They would all read with Mahaprabhu, Bhagavatam. And practically, those days, the Bhagavatams were written by ink and feathers. So hardly they could read the copies of the Bhagavatam. They were all erased, smudged with tears. But Srinivas Acharya had to get a copy, and he went door to door to get a copy and a t-shirt of Bhagavatam. But somehow that Bhagavatam, the commentaries of the Bhagavatam have been profusely written by our Acharyas. And Srila Prabhupada, he translated them into English, following the order of his spiritual master to take the message of Lord Chaitanya to the West, English-speaking parts of the world. So all this Vedic text in Sanskrit are scriptures like our own Divya Prabandhams, like in Bengali, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and all these literatures. Prabhupada translated them painstakingly into English. And he did that. I mean, if we talk about Prabhupada's schedule, he did that when all of us are sleeping. Prabhupada's schedule was he would rest fairly early, 9:30, 10 latest. Then he would get up by midnight or 1. And he would translate every day for 3-4 hours. For who? Because he wanted to leave. Because as it is mentioned again in Bhagavatam, these acharyas, they use a boat to cross this ocean of material existence, but they leave that boat behind. It's just a nice disappearance day verse, Prabhupada. But they leave a boat behind. That boat that they leave behind is the boat of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to leave Bhagavatam commentaries, bona fide commentaries that will guide people in general. Like as Bhagavatam mentions, this Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun. It will give guidance to the people in general who are lost in the age of Kali. But who had access? Nobody had access. It was there. Bhagavatam was there. But in one sense, we can say it was in an unmanifest form, Avyakta Rupa. But Srila Prabhupada, he translated into first, brilliant, just brilliant. Spiritual master. He translated everything to English. And then now everything is back translated to hundreds of languages in the world. There is a Chinese Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Bhagavatam in Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, so many languages. Prabhupada's followers, then they translated this Bhagavatam into different languages. So practically, of course, Vyasadeva, he wrote the Bhagavatam, but Srila Prabhupada has made it available in every town and village. So that's what this verse is talking about. Kavibhir iditam. Kavibhir means great philosophers, poets. Yeah. Iditam means describe. Kalmasha apaham. Kalmasha means, of course, we understand kalmasha, tribulations. So Krishna Katha has the potency to relieve us from this kalmasha, tribulations, tapatraya. But that kathamrita has to be poured into the ears through the mouth of a pure devotee. Bhagavad Katha should be heard from a Bhagavat. Unfortunately, yesterday I was talking to one person, a relative. I have taken a pledge to distribute not too many, but 2 Bhagavatam sets. So I have started to knock on doors. So I asked one person. The person said, "Well, I have a Bhagavatam set. My father gave it to me many, many years ago. I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it." And of course, I said, "Well, this Bhagavatam is different. Word to word translation, commentary, purports by a pure devotee in parampara. Of course, they would not understand." She said, "Thank you, but no thank you." Yeah. So anyway, this commentaries of Srila Prabhupada, they are not any ordinary, you know, commentaries. They are the commentaries of our acharyas. So as Sukadeva Goswami intended it, as Vyasadeva intended, that same message is preserved and passed down. So which comes to the next line, Shravana Mangalam, Srimad Atatam, Shravana Mangalam. So the hearing of these messages, Mangala means auspiciousness. Yeah, one of our Padmas is named Shravana Mangalam. So Shravana Mangalam. So by hearing these messages of Godhead, of Krishna, it ushers in all auspiciousness into one's life. Another Bhagavatam verse is there, right? Tadvaga Visarga Janataga Viplava. So it brings Viplava means revolution. Tadvaga Visargo Janataga Viplava. That verse is there in the first canto of Bhagavatam. That this Bhagavatam, the message of Bhagavatam, Shinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava, when it is heard and sung, it is sung by the Paramahamsas, but it also brings about a revolution in the lives of impious people. Janata Agha. Janata Agha means, yeah, the sinful life of people. Viplavaha means revolution. It brings about a revolution. So Srila Prabhupada is bringing about a revolution through his Bhaktivedanta purports, given almost after 40 years of his disappearance. So Shravana Mangalam. So even this culture that we have of hearing Bhagavatam every morning, Prabhupada established it. Right. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Nityam bhagavata sevaya. Every day, Prabhupada translates that like that. By regularly attending Bhagavatam classes. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. All abhadras are practically destroyed to nil. Shravana Mangalam. Same thing here. Srimad Atatam. Srimad. So the messages of Bhagavatam have the potency. They are filled with spiritual power. But of course, the Bhagavatam has the potency. But again, it has to be heard from the lips. I'm sorry, I mean, if I'm being firm about this, but it has to be heard from the lips of a pure devotee. Like in the Padma Purana verses there, milk is very, very nourishing. But if that same milk is touched by the fangs of a serpent, it's deadly. So similarly, the Bhagavatam should be heard from a lover of Krishna, Vishnu, not from professional speakers or not from those who are not in parampara. Yeah, otherwise we don't get Krishna. We get something, but we don't get Krishna. So Srimad Atatam broadcast all over the world. Atatai is a word that is not very nice word, but it's a terrorist. Atatai means Atatai. So that he does So he has influence, typically Atata, he has influence all over the world. But Atatam here in this context is broadcasting all over the world. Srimad Atatam. Prabhupada has done that, is doing that. Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Burida Janaha. So the devotees of the Lord that do this, that broadcast the message of the Bhagavatam all over the world, there is no one more munificent than them. Bhuvi means this material world. Grananti means, of course, means one who chants, assimilates, and also broadcasts. So Srila Prabhupada has taught us. So we are not bhajananandis, meaning me and my liberation and my back to Godhead, but Goshti Anandis. We want to increase the number of conditioned souls connected to Krishna. So this is real welfare work. So Srila Prabhupada is epitomizing this verse. So Prabhupada lovers, they say that gopis are talking about Srila Prabhupada. And of course, Srila Prabhupada also has been predicted by some of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, that he's a Senapati Bhakta. Prabhupada did not reveal his spiritual identity. Some of our previous acharyas, they have revealed the spiritual identities of our Goswamis. For example, who is Rupa Goswami, who is Ramananda Rai. Maybe one day we will also know who Srila Prabhupada is in his spiritual form. Prabhupada usually brushed away that topic. People would ask him, devotees would ask him. Prabhupada said different things. He said, if I told you, you would faint. If I told you who I was, you would faint. But anyway, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. Without being empowered by Krishna, one cannot spread his message. And for Srila Prabhupada, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that this holy name will be spread in every town and village, it was not an exaggeration. Srila Prabhupada took it literally. His Guru Maharaj took it literally. And Prabhupada tried to fulfill that. And we are seeing it spreading in every town and village. Now, of course, the internet is also helping a lot in the spreading of every town and village. So Srila Prabhupada was that person, Senapati Bhakta in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army. Who spread this message of Krishna consciousness. Anyway, much more can be said about Srila Prabhupada, but this is a verse that we can meditate upon today. Srila Prabhupada's contribution are unlimited. Each one can be spoken for hours and hours. But essentially, he's given us everything that we have, from the smallest detail to the biggest thing. Wearing this Vaishnava Tilak and the Vaishnava attire, the morning program, the Vaishnava songs, the Prasadam culture, the hearing culture, everything. So we owe everything to Srila Prabhupada. And today we can pray to him that somehow, as Radhanath Maharaj mentioned, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj yesterday, we can pray to him that we can fully receive the gift that Srila Prabhupada wants to give us. We can fully receive that gift, apply that gift, and then share it with others. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful Vyasa Puja. It's 8:25. Any comments, any additions, subtractions, questions? You're welcome. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for nicely explaining about the Prabhupada life story very briefly, actually. I mean, I know it can never end. You can go on and on. So it was so sweet. And I mean, I was just thinking about few points that you mentioned, right? I mean, Srila Prabhupada at the end, you mentioned about, I mean, the different things that he gave. Actually, he has given a whole lifestyle, right? I mean, completely, and if people, I mean, having one kind of lifestyle completely changed the whole world. So if somebody follows him, and it will be a completely different thing from morning program till night, right? Whole day, whole thing is changed. So it is a revolution actually, right? So something that is one thing. And the other thing I was thinking, how much he represents the Bhagavatam. I mean, when he came to the America, he got Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam took me to America. I mean, I was just a servant, carried Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam came to America. And then the way he spent his time to translating the Bhagavatam, and even when he was not having money, right? So even in India, when he was in India, he was the way he was doing the first 3 volumes of first canto, 3 volumes of first canto, and then struggling physical, I mean materially, right, looking at it. So it was very hard to understand. And I was thinking, I mean, if I take each incident of Prabhupada, it may not look like he was planning for the big thing, but as a holistic thing, if you see it, I mean, it's a big plan since the time he met his Guru Maharaj. I mean, he got these instructions. So it was very beautiful. So thank you so much for connecting this verse. I'm speaking on this verse today. So
Thank you. Well, thank you for asking me. You gave me a choice between Janmashtami and Prabhupada. So it's an easy choice. Easy choice. Srila Prabhupada any day. Easy choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Chintamani Dasi.
Chintamani Mataji.
I echo what Lakshmikant Prabhu said. Firstly, thank you for setting the mood for Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. And I agree, it's such a, I mean, I just imagine the way the stress and the tension, I mean, all the things that we were so engaged in and involved in, and, versus what we are doing now. It's so different, so much more satisfying. The way we are completely throughout the day engaged in Krishna consciousness, in Bhagavatam, and I mean, we are still doing our daily stuff, but that has become so minimized in a way in our consciousness, or in the real estate, so to say, that it has in what we do and what we care for. So yeah, I mean, this is just so wonderful, Prabhupada. I mean, so many reasons to be so grateful to him. And also the verse that you spoke on, again, very dear to my heart, because of the Pratap Rudra. I mean, that Maharaj Pratap Rudra, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally
gave him his mercy.
Yeah, I mean, so wonderful. So yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a nice point you're mentioning. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned, if you give me an inch in your heart, I'll take over. So it's good to be hijacked by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. It's good to be hijacked by him. Not by Maya. No, it's not good to be hijacked by Maya. No. Srila Prabhupada, if he can somehow appear, and he's ready. And as you're saying, every moment, there is not a moment actually. Yeah, he's given instructions practically about everything. Rehearse the life, how to be a husband, how to be a wife, how to be a parent. There's nothing, as you're saying, during the entire day, that Prabhupada has not taught us what to do, how to do it. Yeah, we just have to follow his instructions. Everything is there in my books, he said. Yeah, there in his books. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This was like Chintamani Mataji said, I think this has set the mood for the day. And I was also thinking, many crowning glories, right? Like Prabhupada has done this and that and so many things. But another thing is these books that he has given has touched like he said, has touched so many people's hearts. And they have also embodied the mood that he has. They've also become Goshti Anandis and not just Bhajan Anandis. And we can see that in his disciples and their disciples, and and so it's amazing. And so for me, we've learned about the story that you said, Maharaj Prataparudra. I remember hearing it from you so many years ago. So it's nice to come back to that, but now with a bit more deeper sense of what that pastime, is for us. So I loved hearing about that pastime right now again. Thank you.
All right. Enjoy the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. Yeah. Maharaj was mentioning yesterday in the Janmashtami class about Bhagavatam. He said he was humble, but he was accurate. He said, like Hanuman, if you open his heart, what will you find? Ram and Sita. So yesterday, before he was giving a Janmashtami class, he was glorifying Bhagavatam. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun. So Maharaj said, Bhagavatam is inside me. If you open my heart, what you'll see is Bhagavatam. 50 years I've been associating with Bhagavatam. It's the topmost scripture there in the world. Chaitanya Charitamrita sounds wonderful. I have my own biases, but anyway, it's nice. Okay, enjoy glorifying Prabhupada. I think it's a legitimate enjoyment, legitimate sense gratification. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu.